Hey everyone, so I wanted to give a brief overview of my experience purchasing this lift and the setup. I didn't find much on the internet about this lift, and I was curious to how it was going to go up. Also, note that the instruction manual, the company has not updated the instruction manual to match this new style of lift. So that's something to consider. Uh, Here are some of the specs of the lift, and I went for the XLT, extra long and tall for the extra space. I had the room, so why not? I purchased it from Mechanic Superstore, and really one of the big selling points was the 12-month same as cash. Yeah, I had the money sitting around to buy it, but if they're gonna let me finance it at 0% for a year, then shoot, why not, right? So I used it was a Synchrony card. I already had one from some time. I purchased tires a while back, but I was able to finance the purchase of the lift via that. And let's see, so 8,000 pounds, obviously. Let's see, lift height. Well, I guess that's the columns, but so the height under the runway. So when this thing's all the way maxed out, you've got 79 inches under the runways, and that's plenty enough room. It's actually too high if you want to service a vehicle. I'm right at 6 feet. That's way too high if you want to service a vehicle. So you don't want to lower it back down. 180 inches. That's plenty long for most everything. I have the biggest thing that I've put on there is my Avalanche, which is built off the Suburban, and also I've put a 2002 Dodge diesel extended cab short bed on there without any issue. Width 99 inches. I want as much width as possible. Drive through width. So that's like between the columns, right? That's really important. Let's see. Any other? Let's see. Locking positions. Da 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 da. Single point. That's really nice. You don't have to unlock it in two places to raise or lower it. Just one point. 110 volts. So yes, it is a 110 volt lift. In the instructions, it wants you to use 30 amp service. So I had to change a breaker in my panel from a 20 amp to a 30 amp. But the plug, the cord that comes off the power unit, it looks just like a standard 15 amp plug. So it is pretty heavy duty cord on that. Shipping weight 1,800 pounds. My bill of freight said it was $16.95. So here's me picking it up. I used a U-Haul trailer. Put some 4x4s underneath it on each end, and then I put the lift all the way up to the bump stop in case of any emergency braking situation. And then I've got it strapped here and here to the superstructure around the trailer frame, and the same back here. And I had no issues with it. I had to drive an hour from the freight terminal back home on the interstate. This is in downtown. This is right in downtown Nashville. Um, really busy part of town, and I didn't have any issues getting it home. So here's me backing it into the shop, and I had to get the truck off it so I could. My plan was to pick the lift up and pull the trailer out. Well, my crane is not wide enough to fit the trailer through, so I ended up having to switch everything around so I could shimmy the trailer out. And another thing to note, a lot of the pieces for the lift are going to be in between the two runways. So when you get all that shipping material off, you're going to find some of the bigger pieces. Go ahead and download that stuff. Get those runways as light as possible. I did it by myself. Two people would be more than sufficient. If you are in a place, I've seen a video of a guy who used a crane engine hoist about like that to move some of the larger pieces out. So this is once I've got the trailer out of the way. I'm ready to set it down. Yeah, trailer unloaded. Got that out of the way. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find your cross beams and you want to slide those. These are Delrin blocks right here. Mine were white, so this is pulled straight from the manual. This is why I say they haven't updated it. So you'll need to slide those into the columns, and there's this locking mechanism right here. You'll have to hold that back. And what I did is I pulled the locks in, and then I stuck a pin through the linkage to kind of keep it unlocked so I could easily assemble these posts, and that was really easy. So here we go. You're gonna pull this back. I pinned it, slide it in from the top into the column, and here's your cross post. So this is what I ended up with. Now, these are too heavy to manage by themselves. Not so much the weight, but the twisting force. If you try to stand one of these up by picking the column up, it could be, it could damage something. You can move this crossbar out and then try to pick it up. But the problem with that is that you'll get to a certain point where, yeah, it'll be easier, but then when you stand it up the height, and it's kind of uncontrollable. So this part, yeah, you really do. I wouldn't suggest having two people. I'm sure you can make it work with a crane or something, but again, and then you kind of want to have it about where you want it erected. You don't want to have it out in the driveway or something, and you don't want to move it in your garage. But so, and then I blocked it up with some wood so I could easily slide that cross beam in there. So, and it slides really easy on the Delrin. This is a runway in place, so use the engine hoist to pick up the runway about the halfway point, and one of these is going to weigh a lot more than the other because one of them has the hydraulics and the cables and everything underneath there. And then I just use the engine hoist as a cart, and because it's got wheels on it, heck, I just moved it around in place, lifted it up, and set it down, and then I pinned it. And then my buddy, he kind of helped me set it up, and we got her both on there and get it lined up. And don't be sticking your finger in there, guys. Use a bullpen or a screwdriver or something to kind of line these holes up. So it's unclear in the instructions, so I kind of want to make this point here. There's long bolts and there's short bolts. And the long bolts go through these pieces right here. And what these do is they give you a space to attach the ramp. And this goes in the back of the lift, or wherever you plan on driving the vehicle up to. You can make either end, I guess, the back, but and then you're going to use a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. Obviously, always, if you can, you want to put the lock washer against another washer, and there should be plenty of extra hardware that comes with it. A lot of the shipping hardware crosses over, but that's just my preference. Especially if it's an elongated hole. I'm a machinist. I've been doing this for 15 plus years, so most assemblies that I've seen and that I've built, you don't want to rely on just a lock washer against a piece of metal. You really want it up against a flat washer and then on a nut. And generally speaking, you don't want the lock washer on the head, but sometimes that's the only option you got. So these are supposed to go on the front end of the lift. And right here, the two bolts that you see, that's where the runway bolts into the cross member. I forgot to put these on. It shouldn't be a problem putting these on afterwards because the weight of the runway is held up on the cross beam by support. So these bolts are not seeing any shear stress. They're just mainly holding everything together. These drop into the back, into these pieces, so you can put these in to keep your car from rolling off the back of the lift, or you can take them out and drop in your ramps when you're loading and unloading. So here, after you get everything stood up, these are the top caps. They're going to drop in. Now mine had 4 buttons. The instructions showed a 3-bolt. Mine had 4, as you can see. And so here's the cable routing. Power unit you want it on the front. They want you to run it on the front because right here there is there's the fitting for the hydraulics. So what I did is I labeled all my columns according to the drawing, and you'll see this on when you look under the lift. Double check that these are correct, and it'll really only go together one way, so you really can't mess it up. But I labeled my columns accordingly, so that made, and then I labeled my cables, and it just made assembly a whole lot easier. Got the power unit mounted. Got the safety inspector there. So then it's time to assemble the locking mechanism. So it consists of 3 pieces, and you have 2 identical pieces that go on each end. You got this Z-link. You got this bar with a Z linkage. Mine had time joints right here instead of a 90 on a bar, and then this is obviously the release handle. So you go in on each side of those and get it to where it's in there. And one of the main things is there's these guides that are welded to the underside of the ramp, and you want to make sure that you have that rod through there, and then you want to couple it together. Pretty self-explanatory. Then you have jam nuts, and that allows you to kind of fine-tune the mechanism, and you'll spend as much time tuning the lift as you do putting up the superstructure. You want to make sure your release rod, your linkage rods are nice and parallel to the crossbeam. You don't want them bending or pushing out, and you can adjust this eye with this bolt is threaded on both sides. So fluid. So in the manual, it specs either Dex 3 or hydraulic fluid. So cheapest option for transmission fluid is Walmart SuperTech Dex 3. Comes around in at 16 cents a fluid ounce, and that's in my area. That's in stock. But for me, I ended up going with an AW32, an ISO 46. So, well, this is ISO 46 shown, I'm sorry, but I ended up going with 32 just because it's a thinner weight. It's going to be easier to pump, more efficient, especially when it gets cold outside. I would stay away from tractor fluid. Tractor fluid, A, is more expensive, and B, it has additives in it that are really for like wet clutches, and those can affect the performance of your seals and of your pump. When I worked in a hydraulic shop, most of those things that would come in ran, an AW32 or 46 or an RNO. AW stands for anti-wear. RNO is rust and oxidation prohibited. And also, check out this great price. $49.99 for 5 gallons. That's about half the price of the transmission fluid. Now the book says you'll need approximately 3 gallons. Well, I put 2 in and ran it up and down, heard it suck a little air, so then I put 2.5 in, and 2.5 was too much. So I'm going to say that 2.25 was about perfect for my setup. And that fluid goes in this is the reservoir right here. So, you're going to want a funnel and some cardboard or something because chances are you'll probably make a mess. So this is the lift assembled. Got your drip trays and your jack tray. And I've got it lower down on the casters for easy move because I figured this is not exactly where I'm going to keep it. So I kind of played around with it in a few different spots. And then you also see when you're putting in the cables, especially. Oh, this is really important. Put all your cables in your uprights and run them as I run initially as tight as possible. Well, not really tight, but I ran the nut. Let's see. All right, so something important is cable synchronization. All posts will have a cable that goes to it that's run from the cylinder. And initially, I started with the cable in the shortest possible position, meaning the nut was run all the way down on the threaded adjuster. And I ran the lift up and down. And what that did is that told me which cable or which lift, which post was the slowest in the sense of the synchronization, because I knew I couldn't adjust it any more slower. I knew I had to adjust it to match that particular one. So it turned out this post was the slowest one, so I had to match the adjustment and speed to this one. When you put it together, that'll probably make more sense. And then from there, you want to lower the lift all the way down. And then mine didn't go all the way down, and it's because I had these cables just a little too tight. So I loosened the cables, lowered it all the way to the ground, and then I tightened the cables just enough to where there was a little bit of tension with the runways on the ground, just enough tension to keep the pulleys from falling out, or the cable from falling out of the pulleys. So yeah, that's the finished project. If you have any questions, comments, just hit me up on here, and I'll be happy to get to them and answer them as quick as possible. Thanks.